Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another video from Backlog Banter. I'm Tucker, and that's Abram. Might as well introduce ourselves for once, yeah. And today we're going to be talking about Sayonara Wild, that game. It's in the,
Sayonara Waldendorf.
it's right there in the title, right below Abram, down there. Sayonara Wild Hearts. Good Lord, I can't talk. But Sayonara Wild Hearts, I can't keep saying that. That's not good for my mental health.
Sayonara Wildendorf is a better game than Tucker's Ward to give it credit for.
Yeah, my words do not do this game justice because really, we're going to talk about this game for whoever knows how long we're going to talk about it. We usually talk about things a little too long, but it's a game that deserves to be played. It is more important that you experience this game than hear a couple of knuckle fucks talk about it, but we're still going to do it no matter if no one listens because we make a lot of videos that no one watches. That's our MO.
Now that we've fucking stumbled our way through the first 2 minutes of the video, Sayonara Wild Hearts is a really interesting game. For real. We're not fucking with you this time. We're
No,
usually
no, this
fucking
is
with
this
you to
is
some
true.
extent.
Yeah.
But Sayonara Wild Hearts is a really interesting game that plays more like an interactive album than it does a traditional video game. Even
Yeah.
a traditional rhythm game. It's very much about the experience. This, for as much as it pretends to be a gameplay experience, this is way more about the AV aesthetics, if you will, the
Yeah.
audio-visual aesthetics. It's all about feeling the music, seeing how the visuals interact with it, and it is another check mark in Annapurna's list of games that they find that are really unique and really different and add something really cool to the libraries that they're a part of.
Yeah. The one thing that I thought of as soon as it finished, and I was thinking, man, I kind of want to write a review for this, and I think I'm going to for a game. I'm going to write a review for Silent Wild Hearts.
Topical.
Yes, exactly. Uh, the one thing that I came up with was that this game is deceptively complex. If you just watch a video of this game, you might think that it's like a tough as nails, like thumper-esque game, right? It's got these crazy visuals, over the top spectacle, boss fights. It's got intense music, crazy, you know, particle effects and everything going on, and really smooth animations and all this. And you might think that it's difficult or it's complicated, but it really isn't. It's actually pretty simple.
The
And
stakes are incredibly low, and
yes, they're
I think
very low.
that's the largest point of contention for a lot of people that play this game.
Yeah.
You need to go in with your mind framed correctly. It's all about perception versus reality, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
If you go in expecting a game that's going to challenge you from a mechanical level, you're not going to find that.
No.
Um,
Unless you're going for gold.
if you're going for medals, sure, but if you're just going to experience World Sayonara World Hearts, fuck, that title's hard to say, isn't it?
Yeah,
Or
it's
maybe we
pretty
just
hard.
suck. I think it's column A, column B situation.
SWH.
The SWH, the point of SWH is not to be challenged mechanically, but to be challenged more thematically and to become engaged in the world. And even if you fuck up, which I did several times playing through the game,
Yep.
It's very seamless. For it being a music game, it's very seamless to get you back in the experience, back in the rhythm, without disrupting the flow of the presentation, which I think is one of the strongest aspects of the game. The fact that nothing feels jarring, and the way it transitions between tracks is very smooth too. It really is a game to play through in one sitting, as I did.
Yep. Same
I'm
here.
sure you did too.
Yeah.
And it's a testament to, for me, whenever I think I've seen everything when it comes to game design, there's always something new. Because this, like I said earlier, this really does play like an interactive album, and that's very true. There really are not any games like this. Not even the God King experience, Donkey Konga, arguably the best rhythm game of all time. Can't even compare, because this is just not a traditional rhythm game experience.
No, it's not. I think that the point of contention that you brought up, it being not very difficult and the stakes are incredibly low, like even the moments where it's rhythm button presses, it's kind of like a small QTE, which in most games, if you fail the QTE, your character, like, falls off the cliff or whatever. But in this, it just sits there until you press the button. So the stakes are even that low in that way. You can screw up. You can slam your bike into a tree or a wall, and you'll have to restart, I don't know, like 5 seconds from where you were. But the fact that it is so low stakes and not like there's not a ton of interaction, like you don't have to be constantly thinking of different mechanics or or else you're going to fail and you interrupt the experience. I think it's actually to its benefit, because the game is at its best when you're not thinking about the controls. If you're going for high scores and looking for secrets or secrets that get you more points to get a higher score, or you're collecting the hearts or the little diamonds or whatever that give you your score, that's a different experience. But the core experience of the game is when you can kind of just zone in and go with the music and be paying attention to the visuals and to the animations and how fluid everything is, and not thinking about the gameplay at all. And I think that it's a very different game in that regard, because you're not really thinking about gameplay, even though the gameplay is there.
I want to posit something, if you will. And it's about to be a fucking educational maneuver I'm about to take you on when I use the word posit. Sayonara Wild Hearts is an exercise in game design that I think is perfect, but misses the expectation of the player. I think the player's expectations is the function of whether you're going to enjoy the game or not. Because if you go in expecting an interactive album, you go in expecting fucking incredible music and incredible visuals, otherworldly visuals, it's a perfect experience. And yeah. I think I believe it came out 2019. I played it right at the very beginning of this year. When we get around to the end of the year, we make our list of the best games we played this year, you're going to see this on my list, because I think Sayonara Wild Hearts really is a perfect experience.
Mm-hmm. So for me, there are a few things that I do love this game. I honestly, as soon as I finished it, I went back and played the levels again just to catch things I missed, to get higher scores, to just re-experience some of the best levels in the game, because it gives you quick in and out if you want to go back and replay levels. Yeah. But there are a few things that I think hold it back from being a perfect experience in my eyes. I think that the first third of the game, the levels are way too short. You can't really get into a groove. You can't really get into the music because the levels just end as soon as you feel like they're beginning. That problem becomes less apparent later on, because the levels become longer, which I think is where the game really shines, when you can get in a groove and the game can throw things at you and you can react and feel like you're progressing through and not just have a wall stop you, essentially, when the level ends. So in that regard, it's a little obnoxious, but the pacing also is up and down, because the fourth world of the game is just very different, and it is entirely different tone, it's entirely different speed, it's entirely different music, and I do think that that's to the game's detriment, because of how engaging and enthralling of an experience it is at all the other times. You're really getting into this groove, and then just the fourth world comes, and it's not super long, but it's a lot slower, and you have different gameplay mechanics that don't necessarily mesh with the rest of the game as well, as in my opinion. So looking back on it, it's not as bad as I thought it was, but I definitely wish that it had just been another action, fast-paced, action-fueled world. I think that would have helped the game in the long run.
I think those are really fair criticisms of it, but for me, it comes back to the fact that it's a holistic experience that you can very easily sit down in one shot. And for me, it's the same as when I experienced an album front to back, such as fucking Kanye West's Life of Pablo, right? Even a wonderful album is going to have some low points, but not low points from the perspective of the music itself being bad, but of it just being a different dimension to the album that adds something maybe you're not looking for personally, but rounds out the experience, I think. So I think the strength of Sayonara Wild Hearts as a collective, for me, takes away a lot of any possible downsides from its lower points, especially for me when those lower points are part of such a tight experience.
Yeah,
that is a full creative expression. So even if there was one or two missions that just didn't quite mesh with me, I don't think for me that takes away all from the elegance and tightness of the execution of the package as a whole.
Yeah. So for me, there's two main points that are sort of these big things that really made me enjoy the game as much as I did. And the first thing is the seamlessness of the game.
Yes.
You start off with a little bit of a expository dialogue voiced by Queen Latifah, which is pretty cool. That gives you some abstract context as to what is going on. It's not a real story. Let's be real. It's an abstract sort of, this is what's going to guide you through this world, but nothing really. There's not like huge important story beats or anything.
Yeah.
But it flows instantly into gameplay, like so naturally. It's insane. And I think that's one of the best things about this game is the seamlessness, and which is why I think I was a little upset by the shortness of the levels at the beginning, is because I was having such a good time flowing seamlessly from cutscene to gameplay to story bits to animations and boss fights, and all this stuff flowed so naturally together that when it did stop, I felt a little jarred out of the experience. Not to say that I didn't enjoy it when it was going, but the fact that it had to be broken up into levels, because this game was, I believe, originally designed for mobile, actually, right?
It was a mobile title,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think that's why it was designed like that, but I do think that it would have behooved the game to be a little bit more
Good
cohesive.
word, silver dollar
Yes.
word.
However, that point is almost moot, and because
Another
as soon
good
as you
word.
beat the game, you unlock album mode, where you can play through the entire experience in one sitting with no stops, which I cannot wait to do. I have not done that yet, but I cannot wait to do that, because I think that's the way the game should be played.
You're making me want to hop back in right now, because I haven't played it since the beginning of the year, like I said. But I
just beat it about 2 hours ago. So
here's the thing: we're a
context.
bunch of fucking degenerate idiots. Because
Oh yeah.
well, I mean that's besides the point. But the last thing I want to touch on really is the fact that we just haven't really talked about the presentation itself yet.
Yeah.
We've talked about how good it is, but we haven't really gotten into the nuts and bolts and the fucking stitches of the cross stitchery and the embroidery and the patterns and things of that nature.
Sure. Yeah.
What I love about the game's aesthetic is not only is the music groovy as hell,
Yeah.
but it's otherworldly, the way that things come together and the scenarios you put in. It's got a little bit of, maybe a Power Rangers vibe in there. It's got a little bit of almost, having played some of it now, it's got like shades of Persona in terms of,
yeah, of course,
it's the grandioseness of it and the performative aspects of it. And I just think that there's something so interesting about hearing music that's very evocative, but also a little bit more abstract by merit of it being mainly instrumental, and seeing it put to these worlds that are so different and unique, and then having your own layer of interpretation filtered through that. I think it just makes for a really unique experience and a really interesting way to understand music and to get a feel for what was happening in the creators' minds at the time. So the presentation, I think, is in the words of the newest Mario Tennis game, aces.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the reason I wasn't bringing up the visuals or the music or anything is because if you've seen this game, it kind of goes without saying that the experience in terms of the visuals and the audio are going to be incredible. I mean, that's the focus of the game. But it's true. I mean, they really are fantastic. Yeah. That the world design, it combined with the sort of off-kilter color palettes that they use, mostly pink and blue clash between different things, and I thought that was incredible. I mean, there's a lot of gradients. Me and my gradients, that really got me going.
I'm a big fan of this color combination. I'm wearing it on my hat right now. Vaporwave colors are fucking awesome.
Yeah, but I gotta put it out there. I'm not a music guy. I know you know that. I know Tanner on the other side of the wall knows that. But I don't listen to albums. Music doesn't really connect with me. I'll listen to individual songs. I like music in general, but I don't listen to bands. I don't listen to artists. That's just not my thing. And the idea of listening to an album never clicked with me. Like, that just doesn't really make sense to me. But when I played through this game, I realized that there is something to it that I just had not connected with, and I just needed an experience. And, honestly, this opened up my eyes. I'm like, hey, maybe we'll try listening to an album or two, I know that's a crazy, crazy thought, but I might actually listen to music. Which was it was a very cool experience. I don't necessarily think it needs to be unpacked, because right now we're talking about Sayonara Wild Hearts, and I said it with perfect enunciation there. But the other thing, I have my two fighting forces of why this game is so great is just, this game is badass, dude. This game is so cool. Are you kidding me? The shit that you do in this game, and the two fighting forces, the seamlessness and the badassery, they feed on each other. It's a symbiotic relationship. It's not only badass because you're doing cool shit, but because the cool shit flows so well. And my favorite level in the game is the one with the parallel universes, where the two guys who were once one are snapping their fingers and popping you back between two different worlds, and you hop on your sword and it turns into a hoverboard, and they have two giant swords. They're riding on motorcycles, slashing at you, and you parrying the attacks while going back and forth. And then their two swords form together into a giant jet that flies at you. And like the amount of shit you do in this game that just is absolutely ludicrous blew my mind. And there were some times where I was like, oh, that just is it's some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen. And I don't know, I get excited thinking about it. Just because I had such a good time experiencing the badassery.
It's like a vaporwave rhythm Devil May Cry.
Making me want to play Devil May Cry.
You gotta fucking play DMC5, dude. It's so DMC5 is incredible, and like just the fact that Sayonara Wild Hearts can evoke this sense of badassery with these more emotional notes about love and about loss and everything in the context of this awesome like playable album experience. This is just an example of interesting design just coalescing really well, and that's all I have to say.
Does he have something to say, or is that unrelated?
Unrelated.
Okay. Well, I mean, look, I can't wait to get back to this game, which is something I don't usually say. When I finish a game, I'm usually pretty much done. But this game has its hooks in me in a way that I didn't think it would. And it's a very short experience. I'll probably beat it in an hour 45 or something like that. But I want to go back to the game. I want to play it in album mode. And I might wait a week to do that, just so I don't burn myself out. But I don't think that the lack of side content or the lack of depth in the gameplay is to this game's detriment. It is an experiential game in the way that I love Firewatch, in the way that I love Flower and Abzu and Journey and Gone Home and Edith Finch and all these amazing games.
Greece.
In Greece. These games that aren't necessarily gameplay focused and not what you would think of as traditional video games, but are such powerful experiences because you can control it and because you can experience it at your own pace, that it really connects with me more. And this is Flower on every drug imaginable, pushed through like 90s synthwave, and it's absolutely just bonkers, and I love it. I love it so much. It's not a perfect experience. As I noted my complaints. There was another thing I wanted to bring up was the fact that in a couple of the earlier levels, they're trying to do a lot of things that are fast-paced and whipping back and forth and switching between different gameplay modes, which is one of my favorite features of the game, is that it can swap so seamlessly between, it's like it's a bullet hell, or it's a side scroller, or it's Crash Bandicoot style going forward. But sometimes that can get a little jarring, at least the first time you play through it, when the camera is snapping back and forth. It can be a little bit overwhelming. But I don't think that brings down the experience at all, because once you're used to it, it feels very natural.
Yeah. I don't have much to add other than the fact that you should go fucking play Sayonara Wild Hearts. Go play the goddamn game. Not very expensive.
No. At the time of recording, it's $7 and something cents on the Switch eShop. Full price, it's only $13, and that's nothing.
Totally reasonable.
This is so worth that money.
It's album price.
I've never bought an album. Actually, I bought one album, 2 albums: the Pokemon Pearl soundtrack and the collection of Monty Python songs.
I haven't bought an album still. I'm just fucking at Spotify Premium yet.
Fools. I have that. I bought that way before Spotify was even. I wasn't cognizant of it, but I've been listening to the Sayonara Wild Hearts soundtrack on Spotify while I was working on stuff before we recorded this, and I'm having a good time. I'm excited to listen to it more. I'm excited to replay the game, and just go play this game. I know I spoiled a little bit of it, but it goes without saying that it's going to be an impactful experience, even if you heard us chuckleheads talk about it.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining us in this evocative exploration through the human psyche. We'll do it again real fucking soon. Sooner than you want, sooner than you hope. Thank you guys for joining.
All right. Peace off. You can't even tell. It's just some strange game. It could be anything. It could be Last of Us. It could be Ocarina of Time. But instead, it's Ape Escape on the loose in the PSP. You're not amused.
You're making me nervous.